Anybody see we are going in France where them shoot Algerian youth and the people them create havoc. Thousands of police them call out, thousands, I mean I talk about hundreds, thousands of police them call out to quell down the rioting we are going. One youth, as usual, African youth. But I tell you, it's a supremacy business there. That's why His Majesty say, until the philosophy that all one race superior and the other inferior until the color of a man's skin is of no more significant than the color of his eyes, we Africans will fight if it is necessary because we are confident in the victory of good over evil. And we hear people are going like say, when you talk about these things, them say, no, His Majesty say until it's the color. Yes, that is what I'm saying, until they tell me something. Shooting down a youth, like what them do in America, the black youth them are shooting in America. And look this one where them shot as an African. So say the until make sense what him say. Him say until. I want to repeat that down in the ones until. Him say until that day, we can stop fight. But as long as it continue, we will fight. So I don't want someone come turn round where I say because them want sing one love, one heart, let's get together and be all right. And those say the thing not even. The thing not level. The playing field not level. For black people come jump up and go and say everything is all right. No, the man say until that day. That means say until that day, we will fight because we are confident in the victory of good over evil. Until there is no first class and second class citizen of any nation. These are the lines from Haile Selassie's speech. And we all dear to it. But we don't want a man turn it round, come go and like say, and me I turn it round. Yes, somebody say about that turn round, Haile Selassie's speech to suit himself, I'm not turning around none for suit myself. I listen and reading, what the man said. And Bob Marley come repeat it. Bob Marley say until that there's war. Haile Selassie never say nothing about war, Him say Haile Selassie say we will fight. Well, you can interpret that as war too. I don't hear nobody say, oh Bob Marley say war and His Majesty never say war. And me when me say until, man I say muta deal with racism. His Majesty say until the philosophy. What is the philosophy? That all one race superior and the other inferior. We keep saying it over and over. What is the philosophy that all one race superior and the other inferior? The philosophy is something named racism, connected to white supremacy. That is what I'm talking about. And until we can crush this scourge of racism and white supremacy, then we can go on our merry ways and all up running the air and say, hippie hooray. But it's not that time yet. Just like Martin Luther King said. Martin Luther King said he must jump in the guns when him talk about him say dreaming about this. Him say that nightmare. Martin Luther King said a nightmare when him talk about one day him dream that little boys and little girls will be holding hand on top of a mountain and them dead. Him look on it and say, well, I had jumped the gun. And him really did jump the gun. Because him come back and lick up him head and come back to him senses and say, say that is not something we would give credence to at the moment. Yeah, man. We play those things already, We play them things there. But them not going to play that speech where him say that. Them not going to play that speech there. Them continue and tell you that when him say it was a nightmare. Him never say it on the speech, It's after him done take that speech there. And him realize, when did I say, it not going to work out now. It not going to work out now. We're going to go to the break and come forward. This is Mutabaruka. We want to present to you a wholesome kind of level of consciousness right now. So, subscribe and tell your friend them. This is Mutabaruka. White people are find out now white people wicked. That is really where I go on. And when you tell black people all the wickedness what these people do in the earth, them start out, you had this and you had that and all them something there. and you know, true you this and true you that, but the evidence will show which group of people take people from them land and carry on a strange land and enslave them, beat them, murder them, kill them, thief them land, and then know all of the things them where we claim. We never have no patent to deal with it. We never have copyright nothing. We just do it out of a natural progression in our culture. And them come patent it, thief it, carry go England, build up England, just like them want the Windrush people, them want the people them come to England to help them to do certain things after the war. And when the people them go there and build up England and all them something, them a dash them, you know, like say, them are some dirty piece of cloth. That terrible thing, terrible thing. All right, back in the home, you know. Well, the one that was back in home still, because Jamaica, them say, the old thing start in a Jamaica. The African, them who was here was using iron to make things until these guys come now and say, what? I let them African here do. We have to go figure out how them do it. We're going to carry some of them go to England too and make them work the thing that we can now do it yourself and then show them where. A journalist who was reported on a lawsuit in the Supreme Court, which is Jamaica we are talking about now, had his tape recorder briefly confiscated by a policeman who deleted... What? Hey, this is serious at all. A journalist who was reporting on a lawsuit in the Supreme Court had his tape recorder briefly confiscated by a policeman who deleted several recordings made in court. The veteran newsman has claimed. The police take with the man tape recorder and delete with the pan it. Then me think say judge, anyway, we'll come back. This is the stepping razor. Make a complete reading about the cop delete the journalist recording and search him phone. It said a journalist who was reporting on a lawsuit in the Supreme Court had his tape recorder briefly confiscated by a policeman who deleted several recordings made in court, the veteran newsman has claimed. During the incidents which reportedly occurred outside the courtroom on Tuesday, the senior journalist said the policeman also listened to confidential recordings stored on his device, but unrelated to the lawsuit. He claimed too that his personal mobile phone was also briefly confiscated by the policeman who conducted a thorough and lawful search of the device. That can't, how that go? Really, people can't, I mean, journalists supposed to can't tape things. I don't know, but quote, I'm quote him now. In all my 33 plus years as a journalist, which included several dangerous assignments working undercover with at least 3 near-death experiences, I never felt so violated, he said. President of the Press Association of Jamaica, PAJ, Milton Walker, in a strongly worded statement last night, called for Chief Justice Brian Sykes and the Court Administration Division to act decisively to deal with the matter, identify any misconduct and hold those responsible accountable, Walker demanded. This is I don't know them people that do them thing, but it sounds to me like the policeman gone overboard and all. You can't listen to man things and not delete what you want to delete. I will tell them feel that. It's a long article, you know, I can't read a long article. Trust me. Anyway, it come out of the Jamaica Gleaner, and that was a Today Gleaner. Yes, it come in a Today Gleaner. I don't know if I can read all of that because I don't want to read enough to go cut again and then start it over. I started over, but apparently, them is taking action. Yes, apparently action has been taken. Anyway, the searches came after the veteran newsman claimed that he was directed by presiding judge Justice Sonia Wynne Blair to go with the policeman identified only as Constable Scott outside the courtroom. Constable Scott is believed to be the police bodyguard assigned to the judge. Wait. Justice Wynne Blair directed me to follow Constable Scott outside with words to the effect that I should ensure that my recordings are not there on my IC recording when I came back. see Sociala threaten the man. She said, make sure she wipe it out before me come back, you know. I tell you that. I was a bad judge. That woman there was a bad judge, Rasta. Eh? She gave the policeman authority to wipe off the man tape recorder, Rasta. I was so. So to us what now? You have to watch yourself now as a journalist. You have to watch yourself. But them not say Jamaica one of the most liberal journalists freedom in the Caribbean and maybe in the world. That people don't really kill journalists or trouble journalists, but this sounds like it has started a thing, you know, because if a judge a gay authority for a policeman wipe out the man information where him have, that means that can't come back. That can't come back. That means they can't write the article again, you know. If you do that, if you do write about the case, him can't wipe out, because I have got to think now what it say and what never say. So there goes that. I see what I got. I mean, it's not a life and death situation, but it's a infringement upon the journalistic freedom that is supposed to be in Jamaica. It's a weird situation, Rasta. The judge give the police authority to wipe out the man tape recorder. Hey, boy, there's never a dull moment in Jamaica, boy. Never a dull moment. Something always have to come up. Always have to come up. May I tell you? I hear them say, well, I say it all the while still. A quote when I usually say, power corrupt and absolute power corrupt absolutely. Well, that come like a one a wield them power. For sure, say them have authority and anything what them say. Because she give the man authority for wield power what she have. And him have to do it because she say, make sure say right back before me come back, you know. That sound like a woman attack to her picnic. Yeah, man, that is abuse. Because she said, make sure say the thing wipe out before me come back. You know, well, she never say, you're not going to like it, but you can't just imagine if it never wipe off. The policeman could have to go really look at next job. Them not easy. Them not easy at all, Rasta. As well as say, we'll see what happen with it. Because if a journalist can be treated that way, what's a little man we just, well, I don't know. Remember them charge a man the other day for one of the criminal them for we a couple of party but he couldn't hold it. He couldn't hold it up and we at the court. That is something else. That is something else while we at the court. I never get out like that in life. So I tell you, there's never a dull moment in Jamaica. Anything goes in Jamaica. This is we just get a news a while ago say Winston Williams in hospital. For those of you who don't know him, Winston Williams, he used to be one of the #1 disc jock on radio. Winston Williams, I hear that he is very serious in the hospital. The whip with a solid kick. And very articulate in his speech. Yeah, man. You pull up Tiger Bone, man. You know Tiger Bone? Yeah, man, Tiger Bone, what I drink, Chinaman, Chinese drink. Anytime you go nowhere and you come back and say, eh? My mic sound away? Oh, I mean, move it, yeah. It's anytime you go and come back, bring some Tiger Bone for him. Love Tiger Bone. So, yeah, the bridge in the hospital, hey, you know, it's a serious thing I go on, you know. Because I hear them say police killing gone on the rise. And I also hear Mr. Anderson I blow him trumpet to make the host of heaven hear it. In a January, February, him say, crime gone down 20% over last year. This was when the year just started, you know. Him say, crime gone down 20%. And me, I say, well, I am hoping that it go down 20% more. You know, well, him is now reporting that crime gone down 12% since the month. Him said since the year start, crime gone down 12%. This is much. It got on more than last year, them time here, but I don't know if it's my head that bother me or I don't understand things. If the crime gone down 20% earlier on in the year, and now it's at 12%, that means that the crime will go back. Because if it's a 20% gone down, it's supposed to say 40% or 30% gone down. But he might tell me, say, crime gone down 12%, and it gone down much more than last year. But earlier in the year, he said it was 20%. That means it now go down again. It now go down again. So we watch it, I tell them, stop telling people about crime gone down, this gone down in the middle of the year. Wait till the end of the year before you do that. Because it is it don't make you feel good when you hear say crime gone down 20% like last year and round your ear pure killing are going. Because that is really where I go on. So, Mr. Anderson, I am calling upon you, sir, to recognize that your mathematics is lovely, but it's not logical. And my daughter showed me, say, maths is the most logical thing. Everything's work with mathematics. And I agree with her. If the crime gone down 12%, I know it's the middle of the year, and in the earlier part of the year, it's the crime gone down 20%, that means it stop, go down now. It's so year, next bunch of years say it's 5%, which I don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. Because the thing get too wicked, vile, dark. We're upon the dark part of the earth right now. Jamaica, we are talking about. It's just unbelievable to hear the things that we hear are going on in Jamaica. Unbelievable. And the people them seem to be not even understanding. It looks like them love ball. Look how much mothers are crying now and fathers are crying. Man, hey, you know what them also say? This is weird too, I hear Mr. Anderson say, there's more men going to the police station now to tell the police that they are abused in the home. And I laugh at that. I'm not supposed to laugh after this, I'm not supposed to laugh. Him say, it appears that men are no longer afraid to go to the police station and say they are abused by their spouse. Men is now going to the police station to tell the police, say, you ask my wife I beat me, sir. You can just imagine the policeman, them policeman, they're wicked. The body don't take man serious every year. They can say, oh, what kind of mama man this? I come to me about his wife I beat him. Before him back some new man. And so the policeman, they go out, Especially if you take a woman, if you never go, they go tell a woman, say, his wife I beat him, and say, them go to run him out of the police station. Terrible people, them. But it's true. The other day, a woman run on her husband, shot him 3 times, and then take a man, chop him up, and beat him, kill him dead. Just the other day, in this area, and we hear more abuse. So, gentlemen and gentlewomen, we must sit down and work out in the thing. Sit down and work it out, trust that. You can't. I mean, you have beat me, me have beat you, you draw my shit after me draw a gun after you, and it now come to no conclusion more than death. One of you go dead, and then the other one go serve him life in a prison. We don't know the prison are full now. We need a new prison now. We need a new prison. We should have taken the prison that the Englishman was giving us and built up a king's house there, so. Because big open land over there, so in front of the Indian embassy there. Land over there to them for build up a nice, lovely prison over there. Because you know, say, if prison up there, so the man them would not ball. Because them could have get aki. Because you know, say, the governor general said a man got jail for pick a dozen aki off him feel there. And him don't know where the aki tree there, Me know where the aki tree there, and we road at the back. The man, they not go around the side of the land, For those of you who know how King's House stay, Me know, say, the governor general and them wife, go around there, so. A aki tree round there, and a man got pick off, try and catch him and lock him up. Child must 3 months them give him. For a dozen aki. A dozen aki. Anyway, we are going to the news now. We're supposed to be talking to Nicola, and all the people know Nicola from the farmers market. about farming as a business conference that is now in progress. It is as we speak, it is happening. So at about 3:05, we will go to Nicola. Meanwhile, in between time, we want to play this song. Yes, we're going to play this song. Here we go. All song come back again. I tell you, I will the whole artists them I come forward, you know, them have a whole heap a show go on with whole heap of them from in the late 80s, 90s, and 2000. Them a keep show all over the place. So we have a first interview here, and it's a farming conference taking place right here in Jamaica. We have on the line Brando Crispy, founder, executive chair, Global Russia. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello?
Yeah, you hear me?
Hello? Yeah, you're so low. You're sounding very low.
Well, I'm sorry. I think it's the line.
I'm hearing you, but you sound low.
I will try and speak louder.
All right. You can tell us what is this conference? I know it says farming, but what is it supposed to achieve, this conference?
I think Nicola is on the call, and she could probably speak better to that.
She's on the line?
To speak.
Nicola? Oh, I didn't know he was on the line.
Yeah, hi, Nicola.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't know he was on the line. Okay. This is Nicola, Director, Source Farm, Eco-Village and Eugene Naturals, past chair of the Jamaica Organic Agriculture Movement. Okay, Nicola, you can tell us what is the purpose of this? I know it's farming, but what is the business part of farming?
Right. So
what is it supposed to achieve?
So the conference is called Farming as a Business, and this is our second one. Last year we had our first one, and we decided that we were going to have another one because we wanted to have our farmers. We want them to differentiate from the gardening and the backyard gardening, because we love that and we encourage everybody to do a backyard gardening. But we wanted to make sure that farmers are actually looking at the farming as a business, because a lot of the farmers are doing crops and then, I'll give an example of tomatoes or something. When they put a crop in, and everybody at the same time is doing tomatoes, and they end up not making any money on it, and then they can't really start again because the inputs are expensive, and they start up, enterprise, because every crop is an enterprise, and then they don't make any money. So we're trying to bring awareness to the farmers that if you're going to be farming, you need to be a more thoughtful process and not just get up one morning and do something. So when we do the training with the farmers, with on a one-on-one cocoa training course, or we're now training hearts for some organic vegetable production, that before you put the seed in the ground, then when you think about it and look at the costing of it to make sure they're going to make some money back so they can have money again to do the next enterprise. So that was the main thrust of the conference for one. But we also are looking at a little deeper, that how we deal with our soil is very important, because that is going to give us more fertility. It's going to allow us to, have a medium to work in to be able to have another crop. But if you destroy the soil, one, it's more nutritional, and then top of it, you're destroying Mother Nature. They're not understanding what you're doing, and you're not. Even if you're organic farmer, you don't understand soil, you have a problem. So I invited Brando to the conference because he's doing some amazing work throughout the world with biochar.
You can explain to her what is his job here, founder of Executive Chair Global Biochar Inc. Brando?
Well, biochar is essentially an eco-charcoal. By that, what I mean that you can make biochar by using agricultural waste or forestry waste. And the reason why you want to do that is because biochar has been called the third green revolution. It is technically what's called an amendment. It is a sponge-like carbon structure when you look at it under a microscope that absorbs water because of its kind of nanotube-like structure. When it absorbs water, bacteria bacteria, microbes, and all kinds of critters go inside. And what happens is that eventually they start creating a very fertile soil. So by using biochar in the ground, you're actually producing a better soil, increasing yields from 20 to 200% on variables, what, where, how you're growing things. But essentially, you're doing a number of things. You save on water, you increase yield, and you're fighting our climate crisis, because what you're doing is taking carbon, which otherwise would go into the atmosphere if you let agricultural or forestry waste just sit or burn, and you fix it into a form where it will stay in the ground for thousands of years.
Yeah. All right, must I ask Nicole something there? This information that I say is presented at this conference, how we intend to get it to the traditional farmers? Because I know the traditional farmers just doing what their grandmother used to do and their mother used to do, and then come to the same thing. How do you get this information to the traditional farmer?
Well, actually, what we're going to be doing, we had a conference last year, and the minister came and told us they were going to give some fertilizer. I want to do a fertilizer project, organic fertilizer project. And we said to them, that is not the way to do it. We said, what we need to do is to show the traditional farmer how to do biochar, how to make compost, how to really start taking care of the soil. So we've been, we're actually, today we're going to sign up and launch on a $35 million grant for June. And we'll go around the entire island having 2 or 3 demonstration sites and meetings and training for the next 3 years on this. So we're going to be very much grassroots. We're going to be going to every, inviting people to every single parish, different locations, so people can travel and not have to travel too far, and actually doing it. So we'll show you how to make, a kind of a small-scale version of even the biochar, just, showing how to do a trench run or a simpler system, how to properly make some compost, all those kind of things. So we'll be on the ground over the next 2 years doing this work.
All right, given that the land, maybe this is a question for Brando. Given that the land is saturated already with the fertilizers and things, can this biochar work still on these land, or how you work that?
Well, traditional, fertilizers, chemical inputs, are becoming more and more expensive, especially since the war in Ukraine. And the other thing is that people have been using it, watch their soil become hard as rock. They're really like glass. And you have to use more and more fertilizers. So what you're doing is you are part of the system where you become addicted to expensive chemical inputs. Now, it doesn't work that way. Nature is actually a ecological system where the quality of the soil improves if you care for it and if you love it. So traditional farmers have always left their land in better shape for their children than they received it from their parents. And the advantage of biochar is that you put it once into the soil, and then that's it. Instead of fertilizers, pesticides, or whatever it is you're using in industrial agriculture, you have to keep on buying. Not only that, you have to increase the quantities to make them work. And this is a zero-sum game. The only people who win are the big companies who are generally connected to the hydrocarbon world. And that does not take care of the needs of all farmers. And 80% of the food on this planet is grown by small farmers.
FM really rocking, What?
When will the next conference be?
I made some technical
I'm asking, eh?
Okay.
No, I'm asking when will the next conference be? When is the next conference? Because this one is today and it's finished. So we just want to find out when the
Right, so we're going to be doing an annual conference for Farming as a Business. But if you go on the Joan website, all the different speakers that are here, they're going to be accessible. So you can, if you miss the conference today, you'll be able to go on the website and listen in. So we want people to really access the information. And also, if you Joan member and sign up for Joan, or get in touch with me, every Sunday at about 4 o'clock, we usually do a talk. So if you have a problem with your organic farm, you have a problem with something, what we do is look globally for an expert or local, global, whoever has the information, and we bring the person on to share that information about how to fix that problem. So we're always trying to educate and give information. So we want people to know that there's a launch coming up for this for the soil fertility project, and that we will be doing some work around the biochar, because we really want to see us shift the way that we've been doing dealing with the soils that we have in Jamaica.
Okay. Well, give thanks, Nicole, give thanks, Brando, and we hope to hear more of this. I mean, we're supposed to spend a longer time on this because it's a very interesting subject in relationship to now that people is talking about farming is the thing, farm.
And Richard, because I know you go to Africa a lot, I'm going to send you the PowerPoint because Brandon works a lot in Africa. And he can show you some of the results that they've been doing with areas that have been desertification and dealing with poor soils. You see some of the pictures and stuff. I'll send that across so you can take a look and see what we've been doing.
All right, give thanks.
Yeah, basically we've been able to take sterile Sahara sand and mix biochar in camel dung to create 11 harvests a year. So what this implies...
Yes, you're on the stepping razor. We're going through the PFCs. You know, we want to talk about a situation that was mentioned last week and about the Supreme Court in America licked down affirmative action. Them say it unlawful. This is something we are going for years. Them say it unlawful. And as a matter of fact, them say the reason why them say it unlawful because you can't really give a one opportunity because of him color. But we know why affirmative action was ordained in America. It was because of the discrimination against black people to move into higher educational universities because of them skin color. So you might have the education and the ability, but because of your skin color, you was not allowed in certain places like Harvard and these places. Big universities never want black people to go in there. I hear a sister talk and I say, when she go to Harvard, a lot of the people them there, the white people them parents was contributing to the welfare of the school. And it's not that them didn't have no education. It's that them parents could have paid them way into the university while she did use her education for going there. And because of affirmative action, she could go in there. Because even though she was way above a whole heap of them, she couldn't get for go to university like Harvard University because she was black. So that was what affirmative action was doing. It was helping people who was capable educationally to go to higher universities, even though they must have a different complexion. But now them turn it down, them lick it down. And it's a big thing. So soon we're going to talk to, I was supposed to talk to Professor James Small. Most ones might know James Small. Him come here already many times. He will be here. We want to ask him about the it's a serious thing. Anybody see the trailer for the Bob Marley movie? Them the working name was Exodus. Now them get a name Bob Marley, One Love. The trailer is on YouTube. For those of you who want to go check it out. The one is going to open next year, January. Yes, it's going to open next year, January. Trust me. trust me, if Carib, we're going to have a open-air theater to keep that the show there. Yeah, maybe have to show in all of the theater them one time. Because, you know, Carib have five room where them show movie in at. I think 3 of them downstairs, 3 upstairs and 2 downstairs. Well, you know, say every one of them theater they have to show the movie simultaneously. Yeah, because Jamaica I want to see it. Anyway, because I tell you, say the trailer left on YouTube, Bob Marley, One Love. I could say if we have the guest here. We have the guest here? Shane, we have the guest on the line?
Yeah, man.
Okay, so as we say, we want to talk about affirmative action, and we have Professor James Small, Pan-African scholar and president of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Brother Muta. How are you doing?
Well, I do quite well, but a long time I don't hear from you, you know. Long time I don't talk to you.
I know, but you've been on my mind. You've been on my mind. I told Sister yesterday I was trying to reach you.
Yeah?
And so the Spirit said you reach. Yeah, because there's a sister making a movie about Nana the Maroons. She's from Nigeria and the UK, and she wanted to get in touch with you. So
Okay.
the
Yeah, I know, my man.
sent you. Yes, sir. But you do all right, you and the family.
Yeah, everything is okay. How is the hotel in Ghana, man?
It seems good. I'm going to be going in 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm going
Pana
in
Fest?
2 weeks. Yeah, I'm
Pana
going to
Fest?
Pana Fest, and then, and just hang out and relax a little bit. Get rid of the stress of America, you know.
All right. I'm going to get into it now. The Supreme Court in America licked down the affirmative action thing, and I want to explain to the people them, or why was it affirmative action, and why is it not good to lick it down?
Right. Well, initially, going back to 1961, when this concept of affirmative action first started, it was started to address the fact that Africans in the United States had been held in slavery and then neo-slavery called Jim Crow for nearly 300 plus years, and denied an equal opportunity to compete for work and an equal opportunity to compete for education. So affirmative action was put in place to address that issue. And it wasn't the issue of saying an African American who was not qualified would be let into the college. They were denying our overqualified people from coming into the colleges. They didn't care how smart you were. If you were black, no. Affirmative action was put in place to address that. When we went for jobs, you could make, and it happened to me so much when I was a youth, no matter how high you scored on the test, if you were black, you didn't get the job. And so affirmative action was to try and cut some of that discrimination in the workplace and in the educational sector. But at the end of the day, Muta, and those who are listening, as them taking away affirmative action isn't going to hurt African Americans one bit, because it really didn't help us that much. At the end of the day, white women were the largest recipient of affirmative action policies, white American women. And then the disabilities persons were the next large recipient. The African American was at the bottom of the poll when it came to affirmative action. And even they began, how they change our names. One day we're people of color, and then the next day they call us minorities and all these other names in order to include. So the Latino population have received much more affirmative action possibility than the African American population. Actually, the African American population have profited less from affirmative action than any other population that was a recipient of any opportunities. And this wasn't cheating or putting people ahead. It was saying qualified people who was turned away is going to be protected by law. All right? And so they still practice that same thing against the African-American population. And all you have to do is change our name. Once you say minorities, then you included all the Latinos, you included all the white women, you included all the Eastern Europeans, the Arabs, the Asian, the Indians. You put all those people under that category, and then you service them. And say, I serviced the minority, but you still didn't service the African-American. So we don't lose anything. Matter of fact, they need to take it away, because the illusion of having your rights protected is worse than not having
Okay, all right. Well, I hear what you're saying. All right, so I you agree with the Supreme Court? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, because the Supreme Court didn't do anything that had been. It wasn't as though they struck down something that had been profiting the African American population, even though the African American population, in their own delusion of political understanding, and this is not all of our population, but the truth is that too many of them, they think that affirmative action was really helping them much more than it were. And affirmative action had to do with two things, particularly the workplace environment, giving us an equal chance for employment, and access to white Ivy League college. And if you look at our percentage in the white Ivy League college, it is as low as it was 20 years ago.
All right, so you're saying no that
they play the game of minority in terms of pushing out numbers. So white women are minorities, handicaps are minorities, East Indian are minorities. So you can bring in all this population and look at our minority population. Thanks to affirmative action, has grown. But if you should look at my African American population, then you're going to have a different story.
All right, the testimonies of a lot of educated black people who has gone to these universities, a lot of them is saying, the majority of them is saying that they were more educated than a lot of the whites in these universities. But when they got there, when they got there, and people realized that it was black people, the racism started to show its ugly face for these youth.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So they are agreeing that the affirmative action helped, because if it was affirmative action, even though they were well educated, they wouldn't get into those schools. You are saying now that it didn't help them.
But remember, we're talking about a very small number of schools. They play a game in America with the Harvard and the Yale and the Princeton and the Vanderbilt. How many schools are they talking about, right? And when you look and
well, we could talk about those schools. We could talk about those schools then. We could talk about those schools. Those schools is the ones that is at the center of the whole thing, especially Harvard.
Yes. Right.
So if black people is now saying that it is because of them education why them getting, and a lot of the white students, when them see that it's black people, it's black students, then you start to see the racism start show its head. So you say that? How you come to that?
Is mythology, right? One of the cases.
You mean the youth them? Oh, wait. When you say mythology, you mean the youth them that is testifying about them situation is illusion them living in? That's what you're saying?
Close. And the case that some woman named Norman brought in Texas, that's the first case that went before. Her name Abigail Fisher, I think, brought this case before the Supreme Court. It hit the court in 2016, and the court actually ruled in favor of affirmative action in that case. But in that ruling, when she was talking about the class that she didn't get in, that school that year had accepted only one black American. It accepted 42 Latinos. It rejected 168 black Americans. But because this white girl didn't get in, the case went all the way to the Supreme Court. It's an oxymoron because it wasn't telling the truth.
Which school are you talking about? Which school are you talking about?
University of Texas in Austin.
Yeah, but all right.
This is the one. Now the Harvard and the North Carolina case,
it's close to talking about, yeah.
That they just ruled on, and the ruling there is the same thing. The percentage of African Americans in Harvard is negligible. Okay, it's negligible. You do have a.
Why you think that is? Why you think that is?
Because they play the game of minorities, right? When it comes to making these decisions in a public discussion. So if I say the affirmative action was started to correct the situation of having held somebody in enslavement and held them in quasi-enslavement called Jim Crow for nearly 400 years and not giving them a fair chance to compete. And that's why this thing was started. And so when they say, okay, we're going to give you a fair chance, but we're going to rename you now. We're going to rename you minority.
And so we're going to bring in more Hispanics than we're going to bring in you. We're going to bring in more Indians, they're minorities too. We're going to bring in more white women. White women are the greatest recipients of affirmative action, both at the college level and at the labor level. I'm telling you, black folks is not going to suffer.
No, wait.
From the white decision of the Supreme Court.
White women getting into the universities. Why would you say that is affirmative action when most of them in their university is white anyway?
Because white
if
women,
most of them in there is white, why would you say if more white go in there, it's affirmative?
Well, that's what they say. They give the white women these options.
No, I'm saying if you
population in these schools.
Yeah, I know you say white women go in there. They went in there because of affirmative action.
Yes.
Explain that.
In terms of what they're calling affirmative action, let's look at what affirmative action is, right? It's not letting somebody in who's not qualified, because like you said earlier, most of the blacks that got in is overqualified for any of these schools.
Yeah.
If they were fair, we would have gotten in at the top of the class to start with. But the affirmative action was put in place to stop discrimination against the qualified student, not to bring in the unqualified.
Against the black students, the black.
That's why they was fought. But if you read the documents, it always say women, minorities, and handicapped. And all of the legal documents. No, I'm telling you now.
Mr. Small. All right, Mr. Small, I could go through this thing. I don't know if we have time to go through it, but listen to now. All the while, white people is a majority in the school.
Yeah, they used to be.
And all right, the majority in the school is white people. And they start a thing to say, no, you need to get some black people in there too. So they start this thing where black people start to get in there. But you say no, that they start to put more white people in it. But it was more white people in the first place. So what will happen now is that black people start in there when there was no black people there. There was no black people going there.
In those major universities that I mentioned, remember, we got 160-something university and 100.
Yeah, but we're talking about the one that the Supreme Court. But we're talking about the one that the Supreme Court got on.
Yeah.
We're talking about the ones that the Supreme Court went on.
Right. Harvard and Yale.
Yeah, and Harvard and Yale have more white people than black people.
Yes, they do.
And if Harvard and Yale have more white people, and you say white people now is benefiting from affirmative action, why is it that Harvard would why would white people benefit from affirmative action when it's white people? Most of them is white people anyway, not affirmative action. Why them go there? Because them white.
Not just white people, white women.
Yeah, white women. White women, white men. I mean, it no matter. White people.
No, white women were not in the marketplace in the university in the way white men were. It was the university 30 years ago was a predominantly white male phenomenon.
Yeah, but now it's also white women too.
Right, the white women.
So why is it white women is affirmative action that gets them
here? They came in under the umbrella that we are minorities. And as minorities, we should be considered under the affirmative action protocols. And they got more access through affirmative action protocols than the American population.
All right, so when the court say you cannot allow somebody to go in a community because of them color, it's not white people them talk about, Mr. B.
Absolutely.
It's black people.
Right.
Because the same man, if his position was the same position, affirmative action get him there, the one black man on the Supreme Court. It's because of affirmative action why him get there.
But what I'm saying is something else. I'm saying that it was never about the color. That's been part of the myth in American politics. Okay?
I'm not going to agree with you,
I'm
not going to agree with you.
I know, but let me tell you why I'm saying that, Muta. Yes, but the idea was if you said that the affirmative action policies that different government institutions make is to address a wrong. The wrong was against a population you had enslaved.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And you blocked them from opportunities to education. You blocked them from opportunities to jobs and so forth and so on. So you want to right that wrong. Good. But the minute you start righting that wrong, you change the language. When you change the language from the people who had been wrong to these terms of people of color.
But the Supreme Court never changed the language, Mr. Smart. The Supreme Court never changed the language. The Supreme Court says
in their language.
No, the Supreme Court says you cannot allow people to go in there because of them skin color. That is what is the ruling.
But what I'm saying, that race has never been the primary issue for admission.
No, but how can race not be the primary thing? And the Supreme Court is now telling us that, look here, it's unequal for me to just say. Eh?
I'm saying
what you say?
Politics in America and reality is two different things. The Supreme Court, that same Supreme Court in 2016 ruled on the Austin case in a different direction.
No, we're not. Look here.
The Supreme Court just ruled on the North Carolina and the.
But it's not that them rule on. No, this Supreme Court never ruled on that. They rule on certain universities, and the certain universities have a majority white people. So if the majority of them in there is white people, and then they come with a ruling to say, we cannot allow people to go into universities because of them skin color, oh, you get that to be white people?
I didn't get it to be that. This is what they've been doing all along, and playing the game with definitions. And I'm just explaining the definitions, that affirmative action policies across the board in the United States of America, in the university and in the work marketplace, the people who've profited from it less, even though we have profited, but it hasn't been around, it's been around the question, because we've been overqualified. It isn't like you say,
we understand that the people who profit from it less is black people. The people who profit from it less is black people. But you can't now tell me, say, it was made for white people or minority people. It was made for black people. And now them go against it and say we don't want to bring black people in the university because it's black people. We must have everybody, no matter what them color. That is what them rule against. That's what them rule.
And what the colleges have said over the years is that to maintain the kind of diversity they need, affirmative action policies and programs help them to do this. And these policies and programs are varied. They got all kinds of things going on, tutoring stuff, summers, all kinds of way they measure how they chose a student. Race was probably to the lesser degree of all of the other tools they use. But in the politics of America, they made race seem to be to the greater degree, which it never was.
All right, so what is the conclusion that you come to when the Supreme Court says that you cannot allow people to enter the university because of their skin color? Or what you says that? It's just a mythology, them trying to build up.
Skin color couldn't be, skin color.
The prerequisite to enter.
Right.
Yes, that's what them say, yes.
Skin color was the lesser of the criteria used. But in America, people have made that seem like the big deal. Like, oh, black people, affirmative action are helping black people get in because they're black. That's never been the truth. It has never been the truth. That has been one of the criteria for consideration. And
I don't like them short interview, I know.
Yeah. And that's why, they said, you remember the minority, I think Thomas, whatever this cracker's name, he says that the school could consider historical conditions and historical circumstances and political circumstances of the student. Well, that's what they were doing all along.
All right, so let me ask you something. Question here. The brother named Santos, down in Florida, when they want to remove certain historical references in the books, them, what is he referring to when I'm doing that?
Well,
when they want to remove certain... Eh?
Yeah, he's
what is he... Yeah, what is he referring to? What is he referring to?
He's referring to two things, and we got to be careful not to get wrapped up in the LGBT blanket.
No, we're not talking about the LGBT. We're talking about the book them that state that African American history.
He's attacking us and attacking them, and they're trying to wrap us in their blanket. We've got a water.
No, we're not talking about the LG. No, we don't want to talk nothing about no LGBTQ. We're talking about Santos and him talking about the books that is relating to African American history and what African Americans went through.
And I agree. Santos has got his program, and his has become the loudest, even though that is happening all over America. And that's one of the things we've been fighting for 50 years.
Forget right.
Keep our history to get out.
And you don't see them on the same line as the Supreme Court. You don't see them on the same line as the Supreme Court.
I think that's the case that needs to go to Supreme Court. We tried to take it there with Dr. Leonard Jeffries, but it ended up in Clarence Thomas's jurisdiction, and he said...
All right, and it's affirmative action, Anyway, we have to move, though. We have to move. We'll give thanks a long time I don't talk to you.
We're going to survive whether they close affirmative action or not. We're going to do what we've always done, and that's our best. Okay.
All right, we have to move. And you know, from I know you till now, we have always that ladder edge. You know that? You remember that?
Absolutely. And I'm going to get in touch with you I'm going to get in touch with you the next few days because I need to put you together with this sister in London.
Yeah, man. I remember about 30 years ago.
I commissioned to Mozambique, so...
Yeah, I remember about 30 years ago.
You
know, I remember 30 years ago we got caught up in something like this.
I know.
Yeah. Okay, all right, we have to move, though. Yeah, man, love you too.
You are Prince and our King, so we will forever love you, my brother.
Yeah, love you too. Give thanks. Yeah, all right.
The time on IWFM is...
The time is 2 minutes past 4 o'clock. You know, so we can't do them little short interview. We got to talk to certain people, you know. Okay, we want to jump right at the next interview. Right now. I hope she's on the line. Tell me that she's on the line. She's not on the line. Okay. All right. So, the innovation that helped to change the modern world was devised by 76 black metallurgists, many of whom had been trafficked from Africa. An innovation that propelled Britain to become the world's leading iron exporter during the Industrial Revolution was appropriated from an 18th century Jamaican foundry. Historical records say, that is what the historical records say, that it was in Jamaica this iron thing, this metal thing developed and reached into England. We have on the line here Professor Verin Shepherd. I don't know. I can't call out all our accolades them, so I'm going to just say a sister of mine and many other people, and the chair of the committee of the elimination of racial discrimination. Good afternoon, Verena Shepherd.
How you do?
I am doing. No, okay. I hear you now. I'm doing even more now. All right. Obviously, you must have heard about this thing that just come up out of nowhere. I don't know if it's nowhere it come out about. All of a sudden we hear this thing. I never hear about it before. You heard about it before?
I didn't hear about this particular case, but what I know from history, from the work of Walter Rodney, Joseph Inikore, and Eric Williams, and many more, is that a lot of what is attributable to people in Europe should be attributable to black people, to enslaved Africans and their descendants, because they were the ones in the colonized spaces. They were the ones who had the knowledge and skills. So while I didn't know about this particular man, Henry Court, and John Reeder, who actually was the one who founded the foundry, we know a long time, Muta, that enslaved Africans even taught the Europeans how to do the thing.
How to do with iron,
Yes, not only iron, they built the aqueducts, right? They were the ones who were involved in rum manufacturing, sugar production. We know because once we know where they came from in Africa, we have an idea of the skills they took here. And them building copper and all these things.
But it's amazing. Man usurp this idea and patent it himself. So that in generations them can live off it.
You surprised? You surprised?
No, I don't surprise. It just put it on myself and says, why them people are wicked till them can't wicked no more.
Thief.
I mean, them sell you, them take you over your top, now pay you, and then now them take away your innovation, try go to England, and then left you on as office suffer. What a terrible people, them man.
Yes, and
all
we have to honor. But all right, you start because I want to cover the interview.
No, man, I'll take it over, man. Wait after, man. I'm trying to take it over. Take it over, man.
I was just going to say
one thing I want to ask you, till you know, how far you think this is going to, or how far will the committee take this information here? How far you think it will go?
Well, I believe that the reparation committees and commissions and councils around the region must begin to take seriously the evidence. In other words, add this to the body of evidence that we are all marshalling in the fight for reparatory justice. Because here is another example of how the intellectual property, how the knowledge, skills, how the ideas of our ancestors were actually taken away and developed other countries, and they left us poor. But I was going to say before we forget, let's honor the black metallurgists from whom the skill was stolen. Devonshire, Mingo.
76 of them. 76 of them.
Yes. I call all 76, but maybe just call some of them.
Yeah.
Friday, Captain Jack, Matt, George, and so on, right? Because we need to call them name Kwashi or Kwesi Coffee because they were the ones who helped the foundry to be established and to be successful, and it's their intellectual property court
was stolen
at a time when he wasn't even doing so well, you know, and then became rich at the expense of our ancestors. So we must, according to all of us, we must break the man and start to, as you say, the committees need to begin to use this along with the other evidence that we are marshalling. Yes.
I don't know if you must have known about, you must hear about Beckford, one of the richest Englishman who did that Jamaica and making millions off sugar cane.
Yes.
All them man there.
Yes. We know about them, and we know about Drax. We know about Henry Drax too.
Yes.
The people who had Draxall plantation in Jamaica and also in Barbados. We know
I mean, how that possible? But they are the ones now, one of them come out and say they want to pay reparations in Barbados.
Yes, and the government of Barbados. Yes, they want to go further with that though. They want him to hand over the plantation to the people of Barbados.
Barbados,
we're watching that. We're watching that. But as you talk about Bedford, you know, the Draxall in St. Anne, that's around 1721, that went out of the Drax family. And it's Bedford. It's the Bedford family that actually bought it, you know. And at the time of emancipation, they're the ones who got the compensation money. So it's interesting that you mentioned Bedford, because there's a connection between the Bedfords and the Drax from the Jamaican angle.
Draxall people, them, yes. And who is what I don't want to residue? Who are the ancestors now? Who are the people now that carry that name in the big, in England? Is there any Beckford still lingering in England?
Oh yes. Beckford, just like the Draxes, the names are there. The Dickinsons, they're all there. And
none of them don't come out like Drax.
For Jamaica, I noticed that for Jamaica, nobody's coming out. But for other countries like Grenada, the Trevelyan's are coming out. But I think we know more of their names soon, because they have formed a group in England called the Heirs of Slavery. I don't think they should be called the Heirs of Slavery. They should be called the Heirs of Enslavers, to put it where it should go. Apparently there are about 60 people so far joined. and we'll know their names, I suppose, soon. But to get back to this, Muta, well, let me say this. If Caribbean history and African history were being taught in a mandatory way in our school, people wouldn't be surprised. And this would not have been, the content, the specificities would be new and interesting. But the overall concept and idea, the knowledge that this was happening over and over and over again, would not have been so new. But, and in fact, the residue of this Muta is that too many people are surprised when they hear that Africans did this and Africans were doing
iron,
this. Yes.
Like so we don't know nothing about them thing there.
But look where they come from. If they're coming from areas of Ghana, you know, if they're coming from Benin, from Niger, from Togo, Burkina Faso.
Yeah, but look on all them bronze statues, look on all them bronze carving.
Exactly.
Where the British chief answer them now get back.
Yes.
Can you imagine a man sit down and after them ask him about it in the British Museum, him say, where them don't think it's necessary to return it?
And yet, they know that they pillaged what we're calling that part of Nigeria now, which also is called Benin, where the bronzes came from, and also from the French part. Bendel State in Nigeria, Bendel State.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're saying that Jamaicans should take this information that to which you have introduced them right now in this show, and empower themselves. You see what I'm saying? What they do is stop thinking that black people didn't create anything. And that only white were the skilled people. They had the knowledge and they taught enslaved Africans these things, and therefore Henry Court could come and position himself and patent this method of metallurgy, and the people will believe. So we have to, out of this must come something sustainable. This knowledge should be extended to ensure that our people are educated. You know, and I tell you, I don't know, but let me say that this article is not the Guardian revolutionary work, you know, or original work.
It's not the Guardian I get it out, I know. It's not the Guardian I get it out, I know.
You saw the article by Jenny Boscho.
I don't know about it.
That's where it comes from.
We are going to tell you, okay, I have a final part it come from. It comes from a thing named Tapelia Times.
Oh.
Taipeil, Taipeitimes, Tapelia Times.
Yes, but the original research was done by a professor from the University College London. Her name is Professor Jenny Boscho. She's in the Department of Science and Technology Studies at the University College London. And it's her article, which is called Black Metallurgists and the Making of the Industrial Revolution, which appeared in History and Technology and International Journals. So this is what the Guardian used in crafting their story. And because it has the Guardian has such wide circulation, you know, it would have gotten around, you know, in a wider way than the professor's article. So we need to understand that and credit the originator.
The originator, of course.
Of this information. But, you know, it's really interesting that if we search the records, we realize that people were talking about the black metallurgists from a long time. Now, this is what the author says. She actually quotes a 1494 extract. This is what it says, and this is from Portugal. We saw a great workshop with many furnaces where they made anchors, caskets, and every sort of marine equipment. There were so many black workers at their forge that they would think them cyclopses in Vulcan's cave. Finally, we saw their innumerable big and fine caskets in 4 large buildings, also missiles, shields, breastplates, mortars, small cannons, bows, lances, and it goes on. To talk about the ways in which they were observing black people using their skills to make a variety of things.
Terrible,
you know?
man. Terrible. Anyway, we have to move, though. We have to move. We have to move.
Let me just say that from what Louis Morrison has told my assistant, this foundry was somewhere near Morant Bay, near Church Corner. And one last thing I have to say, the John Reeder, who started the foundry before court patented and teased something and go about in business, he imported, when he was asked to build the foundry and to start this metallurgy, and to build all these things, which Maroons were building, creating, by the way, he sent for 60 white people, white tradesmen from England, because he said the Africans couldn't do this. Couldn't help him to build the foundry and all this equipment he needed to build. When the 60 white people came, he sent them back almost immediately because they didn't know one thing. He sent them back. So we have to understand.
Well, I'm saying how we build the pyramids. Obviously, our black people build the pyramid, and I'm saying how we.
So that's what I'm saying. It's a trend.
Yes.
Of trying to usurp the
African
property of our people, but they should help our people to understand.
Yeah. Okay, we have to move.
And insist on history. Thank you, Muta.
Yeah, give thanks.
Yeah, man, good.
We're talking about Yale University there, I was invited to Yale University at something called Master's Tea. In this room where the one them still don't have tea and then them have a speaker. I was supposed to be talking to the student them. It's pure white student, as a matter of fact. But this one virgin who walked in was a poet. He was one of the professors them named D Knowledge. And years after, a virgin invite me, Zaza invite me to Trinidad, and me and Gramps them down there. And them I say, see, I didn't make you get to go to Yale University because him used to go to Yale too, which is a black virgin from Jamaica, big Dr. Zaza. Yes, he was a whole heap of working in Jamaica too. But the reason why I say that is that them university there never used to have black people in there. They never used to have no black people at them university there. And because of the so-called affirmative action, we see them include black people in there, where black people excel sometimes more than the whole heap of white youth that is in there. More than the white youth them. And you ever talk about this judge we're in there. It's one of Trump guys them because his wife is a white woman who she tried get this thing about it was a bad election. She was part of the instigator to really run with Donald Trump argument about bad election. She, her husband, years ago was held, was really, what them call it, accused of molesting a sister, that same brother there. Where you see I take millions now from this billionaire to go all over the place, putting yacht and all them something there. But he was part of affirmative action recipient. Him was part of it. And him was one of them now we voted down. Yes, we want you to know that. So there with your African names. We're going to start with the female name. Taraji. Taraji. T-A-R-A-J-I. Taraji means hope. Tandai, sorry. T-H-A-N-D-I-E, Tandai, means loving one. Loving one. Wangira, W-A-N-G-E-R-A, Wangira. Wangira means traveler. Imani, I-M-A-N-I. Imani means faith. F-E-I-T-H, faith. So that's Taraji, T-A-R-A-J-I, means hope. Tandai, T-H-A-N-D-I-E, Tandai means loving one. Wangira, W-A-N-G-E-R-A, means traveler. And Imani, I-M-A-N-I, Imani means faith. Men name. Letabo, L-E-T-H-A-B-O. Letabo means happiness or joy. Mandla, M-A-N-D-L-A, Mandla. Mandla means strength. Ado, Ado, A-D-D-O, Ado. King of the road. King of the road. And Jawara, J-A-W-A-R-A, Jawara means lover of peace. That's Letabo, L-E-T-H-A-B-O. Letabo means happiness or joy. Mandla, M-A-N-D-L-A, Mandla, means strength.
The informative information presented in this video is motivational and is positively aimed at inspiring, educating and entertaining the viewers with the cutting edge of critical reasoning. If you enjoy the contents on the Black Radar YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to show your support.